not going to kill you. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to tell all your friends about me.
What are you?
It's 1989. One of the most insane earthquakes interrupted Game 3 of the World Series.
Take. I'll tell you what, we're having an earth.
The Berlin Wall had fallen, uniting East and West Europe, and one of the most culturally influential movies was released, Tim Burton's Batman.
Oh, I can't wait. I love Michael Keaton. He's one of my favorite funny people. And I love Jack Nicholson, and I love the trailer. I love the whole thing. I'm ready to go.
Taking the world by storm at a time when superhero movies were nothing special and, as a matter of fact, kind of a joke, this was all people were talking about. Batmania, as some people called it. You had posters, action figures, trading cards, and of course, a video game. Developed by Sunsoft, the creative minds behind the hit Blaster Master, and to be released that very same year. Well, let's just say they had some big shoes to fill. Reaching homes on December 22nd to the Nintendo Entertainment System, the game only fueled the Batmania. But everyone knows licensed games usually suck, especially on the NES. They're always just quick cash grabs that either have nothing to do with the movie, or take it so literally you wonder how it even got released. With LJN making just about every movie or superhero-based game, could this be any different? Well, again, this wasn't LJN. This was Sunsoft, and they, for the most part, knew what they were doing. But that was over like 30 years ago. Since then, gaming has changed so much. I mean, look at this controller, and then look at this. And nowadays, people have save states and microtransactions to progress faster. So, does this have any value today? I mean, why should we even care about a game this old in the first place? Well, it's important to know where we came from and how we got there today. It's good to look back on the progress we've made in our humble beginnings. So, with that, let's take a look at Batman, the video game. Taking a look inside the manual, the game pretty much skips the first hour of the movie and dives right into the Smilex fiasco. Honestly though, I'm fine with that, considering a good chunk of that movie is dedicated to the Joker, or Vicky Vale's investigation into the Batman. It really wouldn't make for a good game either. But other than that, it does a fine job recreating scenes of the movie, like the Batmobile shooting open an entrance into Axis Chemicals, or Batman confronting the Joker for the murder of his parents. A few levels do their own thing though, like the sewers, that wasn't in the movie at all. To add to that, a lot of the enemies are completely original, not even to be found in the comics. It's a video game though, you kinda have to take some liberties to make it fun. And as the man himself said,
if it's not fun, why bother?
the game starts off dropping you right into the streets of Gotham. Let me just say right off the bat, the graphics here look great. While it's no Super Mario Bros. 3, this looked above average for the NES when compared to games like Contra or Ninja Gaiden. Speaking of which, the game's art style keeps that same look of the movie. It has that urban dystopia feeling from the movie's Gotham City. Absurdly tall skyscrapers, metal pipes everywhere, that Art Deco font in the background, and the desolate buildings of the residents. The level itself does a good job teaching the player what exactly to expect moving forward. While it may not be as controlled of an environment as say 1-1 from Super Mario Bros., you pretty much realize to punch the shakedown running towards you right away, considering you only have 2 buttons to work with. Eventually, you'll realize you can't progress moving horizontally any further, and find out you actually have a wall jump, which is pretty cool. This is crucial to the gameplay, as the later stages pretty much require precision wall jumps to get anywhere. In this stage though, it doesn't really throw anything too crazy at you, and it doesn't really punish you for falling either. Where it does get iffy for newcomers comes in the form of the Enforcer. After a few tries, he's not really a problem, but for someone playing it their first time, he can easily take out half your life bar before you even realize what's going on. This is where the bat weapons come into the mix. Besides your basic punch, you have the Batarang, Spear Gun, and Dirk? I usually just call it the triple shot, at your disposal. The Batarang only uses 1 unit of ammo, the Spear Gun uses 2, and the triple shot uses 3. Let me just say here and now, the Spear Gun and the triple shot are very situational, to put it lightly. You really only need them for like 2 of the bosses and a handful of scenarios. The Batarang, on the other hand, will be your best friend throughout all of this. It's quick, it's inexpensive, and it does its fucking job. I'll get into this later, but the amount of time and brain cells I've wasted trying to use the spear gun on a big enemy, only for it to slowly shoot out and just miss entirely, which leads to me getting hit, is unbelievable. So you want to be the Joker, whip out those batarangs, and mash that B button. So yeah, this level is pretty straightforward. It's basically just a tutorial. While it doesn't hold your hand, it showcases the common bad guys you'll see throughout your adventure and teaches you pretty much everything you need to know. Actually, if you look in the manual, you'll find out that these aren't just random Joker goons with different weapons, but characters ripped right out of the Batman mythos. While there are some original characters, would you believe me if I told you that that's Deadshot?
Oh, that's hot.
Or that's the KG Beast? It really goes to show how much the developers actually cared. Personally, I think it'd be super interesting to see Michael Keaton's Batman fight these characters, considering you can't even turn his head. But I don't know, I mean, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but like, I don't know, what if he fought like Killer Moth or something? Yeah, he's a pushover just like in every other Batman thing he's in. You can pretty much cheese the whole battle by just sitting in a corner, poking out for a second, throwing a triple shot, and going back to the corner. Plus, there's plenty of room for error. This guy just doesn't pose a threat whatsoever. After stomping out Killer Moth, we've made our way to Axis Chemicals. The game's taken some time to teach you the basic mechanics, but now this is where you learn how to really get the hang of it. There's many more hazards to be found here, but I wouldn't say there's an unreasonable spike in difficulty. You'll find below some of the platforms lies toxic waste, or gluck as the manual calls it. Unlike the pavement of the last stage, this goo will hurt you. Thankfully, it doesn't kill you upon impact, but if you fall in, it does take a second to get yourself out. Just avoid it at all costs. Also, I can only imagine that this is the same stuff that turned Jack Napier into the Joker. I don't know how Batman is able to hop right out, but maybe we should be grateful. I mean, could you imagine like a Joker as Batman? Like, oh my gosh, like what if Batman was a Joker? What if the Joker took control of Batman? Like I said, this is where you realize the extent of the platforming you'll need to master. The game has no problem at all punishing you for missing a jump. Besides the Gluck, you also gotta worry about these electrified walls. It might take you a few tries your first time playing, but around then you have a pretty good idea of how to control the Caped Crusader. Besides the floor though, there's a few times where you have to worry about the ceiling too. There's a few instances of claustrophobia where you learn the art of gently pressing the A button to do a short jump. Again, nothing crazy, but this is only level 2. One thing I really appreciate about this game is how enemies are locked into place when you're attacking them. Kinda like Dig Dug and his air pump, you have a second to think about your next move. While holding one bad guy in place, you get a second to decide what weapon to pull out next, or even assess the next platforming challenge. It's great, you never really feel like super overwhelmed, at least not yet. This brings me to one of my most hated enemies in this game, the Drop Claw. This little shit relentlessly spits out bombs that chase you down until they either hit a wall or you. Well, why don't you just destroy the thing spinning them out then? Well, I've tried. And these assholes take anywhere from 10 to 15 batarangs to kill. And, more often than not, there's another one right around the corner. And, they're usually too high to even hit. Isn't that just the best? Eventually though, you'll make it to the boss of this level, the Machine Intelligence. This fight is split up into 3 mini phases: the electric current controller, the cannon, and finally the nerve center, which can only be destroyed after the first 2 have been dealt with. This is one of the few times the spear gun is actually useful, as it's cheaper than the triple shot and gets more range than the batarangs. You don't really even need to move, just watch which of the 2 cannons is firing to decide to either jump or duck. The cannon might seem more intimidating than it actually is, with its random pattern of dropping, You can make mincemeat of the thing though by just whipping out the batarangs and going to town on that fucker. Just be mindful of wherever the whatever that is falling. It really doesn't take much to reposition though. Finally, the nerve center can be dealt with your own 2 fists. If you get right up to it and duck, it can't hit you. So just wait for it to expose itself again after shooting and beat the shit out of that thing. After getting shot by the Joker, we're sent down to the underground Conduit. I'm gonna be entirely transparent here and say that this level made me rage quit for an entire year, if not longer. Why is that? Those fucking mutants! Named the Jaders in the manual, they're biological weapons made by the Joker to make you want to punch a hole through your monitor. They're big, they're fast, and if they catch you, they'll stay on top of you until you are dead. You'd think with your invincibility frames you'd stand more of a chance, but they follow your knockback, so it's a task in itself to even get away from them. This is the level that showed me just how useful the batarangs really are. and how useless everything else is. With how quickly they fire out, you can lock them in place and wail on them until they won't bother you anymore. And, surprisingly, it doesn't take that many hits to kill them. One thing I really wish you could do in this game was change your weapons in a pause menu. Think of something like Mega Man, for example. Personally, I never use the L and R buttons to swap weapons. I don't know, I don't see the point of taking a cheap shot when the menu isn't even that hard to navigate.
It's like, sorry, I don't have time to switch to my fist, cause, like, why can't I...
I guess you could argue that in those games you usually have around 8 weapons, and then some, while here you only have 3. But to go against that, Batman doesn't control as tight as Mega Man. His jumps are a bit delayed with a fixed trajectory.
That did not just happen.
So here, if you get stuck, you are stuck.
Like, they land right on top of you, dude. Fuck! Oh my gosh.
I do appreciate how this game gives you unlimited continues though. If it sent you back to the title screen after losing all your lives, I just would not be making this video. Funnily enough, there's really no repercussions for getting a game over either. You keep all your ammo and you restart in the section of the stage you died in. Like here, I died in the cavern section of the level and instead of being sent back to the sewers, I'm right back here. I mean, I'm not complaining, but that's undeniably an interesting design choice. Even with the unlimited continues though, you'll get your ass ripped if you're not careful, which is actually kind of cool. I mean, you're not Spider-Man, you're just a guy with some body armor. That's pretty accurate to Batman if you think about it. While, yeah, it's no Predator mode, it still has the same philosophy of Bruce Wayne needing to plan out his very next move. You're obviously not going to get it your first try, but through enough trial and error, you'll know which weapon to have out at which time, and which areas you need to tread lightly through. Sunsoft, you've outdone yourself again. By the way, if you've been paying any attention at all to the music in the background, you have to have realized by now just how catchy this game's soundtrack is. Let me just say, Sunsoft has always made good music, from Journey to Silius, to even Gremlins 2. Yeah, I said it. And here, they nailed the Batman aesthetic. While it is a little unfortunate they didn't do what the arcade game did of making their own renditions of the movie's official soundtrack, I think what they did here was perfect for the game they made. Every stage song fits so well with the theme, while also keeping that feel of Batman. Not so much Tim Burton, but that's okay. Gotham City's music sounds kind of dark and mysterious, but also cool. Like you're a detective walking around the worst part of town, or going on patrol in the Batmobile before the song starts to pick up tempo with the outlandish platforming you have to do. Axis Chemical's music sounds super upbeat. Like now that you've got the hang of the mechanics, you can have a field day as you traverse this dangerous factory. It's like the game telling you that you're the man and you can handle whatever's coming your way. The danger below isn't even a worry anymore as you effortlessly wall jump across. The underground Conduit's music sounds very brooding and fills you with a sense of dread. But then it reminds you that you're playing as the hero and you can't give up. The game's picking up in difficulty, but you're gaining skill as you go on. It's like a game of tug-of-war between good and evil. There's actually an insane metal cover of this song made by metaldriver.
Yo, yo, yo! Ah!
I've been using it for my easy runs for a little under a year now, and no, I'm not apologizing for it. Anyway, onto this level's boss, the Electrocutioner. Now, don't be fooled by how this guy's been portrayed in other Batman media. He's usually seen as a goober, whether it be him getting milli-whopped in Arkham Origins or that fucking stupid episode of Gotham where they teased him at the end of an episode and made him seem like a big deal, only for Gordon to just throw water on him? Like, what? Regardless, he is no joke here. Without knowing his pattern, you'll find yourself back at the beginning of the stage in a matter of seconds. I found, well, on YouTube, thanks to user GK4450, that the best strategy is to hop on one of the 2 platforms and bait him into jumping towards you. Once he does that, he'll jump straight up and leave himself open for you to wail on him for a second. While it's a simple strategy, it's very easy to mess up. You can find yourself getting stuck in a state of repetitiveness and end up screwing up the whole rhythm. It's not exactly game ruining if you fall, but if you do, you better get back on track as soon as possible, or that's another life. But with enough patience and understanding of both his movements and yours, he's cooked. Climbing out of the sewer, we find ourselves in the laboratory ruins. You know when the guy before the final boss is harder? Like how Rick Bruiser has that cheap shot and super punch out that can one-hit you, but then you get to Nick Bruiser and it's really not too bad? Well, times that by 100. This is the Joker's all-out assault, and everything in here wants you dead. This level is home to some of the Drop Claw's worst moments. They were bad enough in level 2, but here they work in tandem with mobile trackers and jaders, so it's very easy to get overwhelmed. Both the mobile trackers and jaders usually take a moment or two to assess, but with the Drop Claw up above, you kind of have to switch up your strategy, as now you have multiple things coming at you, one of which never goes away.
Like, I can't even fucking think because there's a landmine, and if I get too close, there's a flamethrower. Gosh! Oh, okay, this level sucks.
Also, how do the bombs sometimes hurt me and sometimes not? Like, it's so random.
That's so fucking lame.
I think this is where a lot of Batman's weaknesses start to show. I don't want to call them flaws, as the developers designed him this way on purpose, but it sure would be nice to move just a little bit quicker. The first section is leagues harder than the middle one though. Once you get past that fuckfest, you'll find the warehouse section to be pretty straightforward. I mean, besides this stupid jump. You're not out of the woods yet though, as you still have to finish the final and worst part of the level, the thermal processing plant. Yes, the final level is challenging, but this is the final test of everything you've learned. Before anything else, you're gonna die here. When you restart at the top of the tower, just jump down. You might take 1 or 2 hot shots, but it's not that bad. Don't waste your time. Oh, and by the way, fuck you for putting the exit just out of reach. Assholes.
Who designed this game? The Joker?
Anyway, this part is so difficult because of the rotating conveyor belt platforms. They're tiny and require you to tap the D-pad just enough to keep Batman on them. It's not only that, but once you jump off, you have to meticulously wall jump to the next platform. And this is the fun part, said platforms occasionally shoot out electric beams or have mobile trackers exactly where you want to jump. Oh, did I also mention this is all over a pit of fire? I mean, you can catch yourself if you fall, but until you nail it, you're gonna be here for quite a while. It is so discouraging to fuck up at the last second and plummet back to the start. This part took me a good 20 minutes, even after beating the game once. Like I said before, this is where Batman's weaknesses rear their ugly heads. His fixed jump will make you want to rip your hair out. Specifically, when jumping onto this last set of conveyor platforms. You have to commit to that jump. If you stutter at all, your ass is starting all over. Whenever I made it to that part, I would shit my pants and end up falling. Wall jumping off the conveyor platforms is not an easy task.
Oh my gosh. I don't know what happened there. I pressed the button and I forgot to fucking, I'm trying not to scream because I don't live alone.
But level heads must prevail. Like anything, this just takes practice. You have to stay calm and drown out the intense music. The fire's not rising, there's no time limit. Just relax and remember exactly what is coming next. I eventually just stopped reacting and went nonverbal on this part. It was hot and I had turned off my fan so my mic wouldn't pick it up in the background. I just took a breath and planned my next move. Just kind of like Batman. Unfortunately, you still got some dickish enemy placement waiting for you up top. If you hadn't got the hang of dealing with these big ass tanks in the last stage, now you get to do it with an awkward stairway placement. For some reason, every other shot would just phase out, but again, I'm not a complainer. Just time your jump with the spirit gun and you'll be okay. Also, I swear this part with the heat waves and the mobile trackers comes straight from hell. Keep at it though, and soon enough you'll find yourself facing this level's boss, the dual container alarm. These names are so dorky. Listen, I'm not gonna beat around the bush here. You can do the whole thing with just your fist. It kinda reminds me of the Wily 3 boss from the first Mega Man, and no, I don't feel like saying its name out loud. Like the Bubble Bot from Mega Man, it has its own set path and doesn't seek you out. To add to that though, if you're attacking an enemy and they're still advancing towards you, they'll just phase right through you. I'm not sure how difficult this boss was meant to be, but with this strategy in mind, it's cake. You can kill the second one without even needing to reposition yourself. You made it. Against immeasurable odds, you're finally in the tallest building in Gotham, the Cathedral. And it's playing the first level's music? They couldn't have made a new song? I mean, it's good, but really? Anyway, while this is no walk in the park, it's definitely easier than the last stage. It's way shorter at least. The key to all of this is nothing more than patience, observation, and finally execution. A few enemies, like the Javelin, have a weird pattern of 2 successive shots of their spears and then 1 more a moment later. Knowing just when to make the jump is what will bring you towards success. But if you don't feel like doing all that, you're actually in luck. You can just off-screen a few of the enemies. All you gotta do is jump down after getting them to spawn in, and that's that. They're gone. And with a game like this, those little things will go a long way. My first time playing, I wanted to walk out of the lecture I was ignoring and just snap my laptop in half. But second time around, it's really not too bad. Sure, I've probably spent like 2 hours in total on this level, but at this point in my life, it's fairly simple. Speaking of simple, it wasn't until this playthrough where I found a decent strategy for the second to last boss, Firebug. Wait, hang on. So, there's Firebug and Firefly? Oh, I guess he is a character. He just gets beaten by Firefly though, so like, why is he here? Whatever. As I was saying, Firebug is one of those bosses who you have to go through before fighting the real bad guy. Think Sigma's dog in Mega Man X. Funnily enough though, in the beta of the game you didn't even get to fight the Joker, and it said Firebug was the final boss. As for the fight itself, I think it's just as difficult as the Electrocutioner's battle. The only thing is that you're so close to the end, and with your adrenaline pumping, it's a bit easier to choke and screw up the pattern. His fireballs require your highest jump, so you do have to time it just right. Thankfully, you don't need to move at all during this fight. If he gets close to you, just spam your batarangs until he retreats and continue the cycle. Once he's bit the dust though, it's time for the Clown Prince of Crime himself. Remember earlier how I said to stay calm and watch for patterns? Well, forget all of that. Expect to game over against him at least once. If you do though, don't feel too bad. For whatever reason, you don't have to fight Firebug again. That's right, you can just go straight into the Joker fight. Yeah, it sucks having to go through the level again, but at least you'll be able to replenish your ammo, and trust me, you'll want to stock up on that. So, then what exactly makes this fight so hard? The Joker has no pattern at all. He does what he wants, and you just gotta get lucky. Hopefully you didn't use up all your battering ammo against Firebug, as that's the only weapon that's quick enough to match him. He has 2 methods of attacking you, calling down strikes of lightning with little areas in between for you to stand in, and that huge revolver he used to shoot down the Batwing with in the movie. If you're close enough to him, chances are the lightning won't hit you. He telegraphs it by raising his hand, so you have a second to anticipate where it'll fall. But you literally have like 1 second, so don't be surprised if you get hit anyway. The revolver on the other hand is no joke. For the first time in the whole game, an attack does 3 whole units of damage to your life bar. Like, out of all the things, that's what hurts me the most? It's not even like different enemies did different amounts of damage either. Everything up until this point only did 1. It was a nasty surprise my first time around and definitely threw me off. It doesn't help that it's not telegraphed at all either. At a moment's notice, he just lifts it up and blasts you. The projectile is huge as well, and sometimes you can duck under it, and other times you're just fucked. Then again, this is the final boss. He just really wants you to know that though. In the run where I finally got it, I just got lucky with when I got hit. I guess it's kind of a trade-off, but I used my invincibility frames after being electrocuted to power through the revolver blast and just smash the B button. You thought I was kidding when I was talking about the B button? I hope your trigger finger is good, because every second of those invincibility frames matter. Oh yeah, and after you beat him, make sure you walk up to him. Nothing will happen, but, like, yeah, nothing will happen until you do it. While it may not follow the movie, like, at all, I still think what they made was pretty cool. Utilizing obscure characters like Maxi Zeus in the manual got some serious brownie points from me. I'm sure you know, but I'm one of the few people who really wish the Burtonverse got expanded. So to see a version of the Electrocutioner that's unapologetically 80s filth is so cool to me, and I wish we could get more of that. Hopefully I didn't sound like I hated this game, because I actually adored it from start to finish. It's pretty brutal, but ever so rarely does it feel like it's your fault. It definitely takes some time to master and can be very frustrating at times, but it never feels impossible, unlike something like Ghosts and Goblins or Silver Surfer. The game gets you accustomed to how Batman controls before throwing anything too crazy at you, which is just objectively good game design. I think people forget that Batman is a ninja, so to go for a gameplay style similar to Ninja Gaiden just made total sense and ended up working really well in my opinion. From the dark and stylized graphics to the catchy music, this is a great time and I'd highly recommend it to any retro gamer looking for a challenge. Tough as nails, but so rewarding when you finish it. I guess you could say, it makes you
feel like you're Batman.